Hello and welcome to the episode of Flying High with Flutter. I'm your host, Alan Wyma. Today I am with Boluwatife Atanda. I didn't actually ask how to say your last name. Did I get it wrong?
Yeah, you were fine. You were fine. Atanda. On, yeah, not and like a croissant.
I'm still on jet lag over here, so my brain's not quite there yet. I just came back from a long trip in US, so I'm still sleeping crazy hours.
Sorry.
Anyways, no, don't worry about that. I apologize about your butchering your name. Um, Yeah, he is a software developer based out of Nigeria, and he created a really interesting, cool package called OK. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Go ahead.
As Alan said, my name is Boluwatife Atanda. I'm software engineer from Ibadan, Nigeria. I specialize majorly in Rust and Flutter. I currently work at Caspian Digital Solutions, Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, remotely. And I've been programming for since 2014. I'm programming since 2014, majorly. Flutter for 2 years and Rust for a year and a half.
Now, do you have anything in production in Rust or no?
No, 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 no. No, 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 no. What I did was one time was I don't recall. It's something to check whether a file has changed to something or something to compare files. That was that time. It uses yeah. I think it's called diff. That was like a year ago, almost a year ago. Called diff. It's like a program, like a command line application that checks the what do you call it? SHA-256 and just checks where exactly it's missing. What it checks that first, and then it checks all the file content. What is different in each file, and it's just the command line thing. That's all I did. That's outside now.
Oh, is that something released publicly, or that's just for yourself?
It's just on GitHub. That's all. It's just on GitHub. I don't really since I made it, I didn't really look at it much.
Well, I kind of want to go back to your history, right? So you said you've been programming for 4 years and Flutter for 2 years. Is that correct?
I've been programming for 2 years. I've been programming since 2014.
Okay, it's quite some time. Maybe I heard wrong. What was your first language? What kind of got you into programming?
Yeah. Before then, of course, I didn't know anything. I'd not even heard about programming as a thing. Well, not in the way that I know now. Not in the way that I know now. What I was thinking, the latest I did was in high school, in secondary school, call it secondary school here. Basic. There was this language called Basic where they just put lines of words, and there's like go to. There's numbers, and it was just very pedantic. It was not interesting. That was the best until when I got into the university. I was 2013. Senior of mine, we attended the same secondary school. So it just gave me a few books of computer programming, and the first one I opened was a Java book. I was like, where has it been all my life? Like, how come I've not seen this before? Like, it was just incredible. I didn't spend so much time on Java because I went to C, because Java was the first. But when I saw C was just like a less verbose, more intuitive. I think, if you see the difference between Java and C in that sense, as it's for beginners, someone who doesn't really know the intricacies of programming, that was what I was able to see, and I moved to C. And then I was creating command line applications at that time. Like all the applications I was doing was on the command line. So it just got boring because I wanted to see something. What I was doing work. Then maybe around 2015, I got introduced to JavaScript and web tech 81 CSS JavaScript. And because as a beginner, you want to see what you're doing. You want to see work in a way that people use it, because that's what really spurs beginners up. Doing something and seeing it work in a way that other people can use, and creating website and seeing what you do work, and what you do like being visible. Let me say that. And then I was in JavaScript for maybe 4 years. Yeah, 4 years. I did some freelancing after becoming very good with it. I did some freelancing, and then when I finished university, I went to teach. I taught for a year where I taught data processing. I didn't study computer science in school. I studied chemistry, but they were like, you go to computers, just teach data processing, which I didn't know because programming isn't from data processing. But I got to learn a few things about normalization, normal forms, all those kind of things, database management, and things like that before teaching the school students because obviously I had to learn them before I was able to teach them. So that was a learning experience. Yeah, and just a little tidbit with that one. When I was teaching, I'm a programmer, so but there was a prospectus like a syllabus to follow. But just before I was able to go, I just decided just to teach them programming, teach them the beginnings of programming because if I had something like that early on, that's more interesting programming. I just would be a better programmer. So I did that and I even showed them Flutter. I showed them Flutter there also. I showed the little kids Flutter. They're like 14-year-olds, 13-year-olds. I showed them Flutter. I showed them Python. I showed them the sense of algorithmic thinking, things like that. But my principal, she was very, very pissed. She was like, who is going to teach all this time you spent teaching them programming? Who's going to cover it now? Huh? But I feel as though I taught like 80 students at that time. So one of a few of them will be programmers now, at least should be programmers, and I feel like that's like an achievement for me because out of 80 students, at least 10 should be picking that up now and being the first inlet or first person to introduce programming to them. It's just something I just could not pass up at that time. So she got fine with it eventually. She got fine with it eventually, and that's that. And then I went to Swirge after teaching for a year. I went to Swirge. I was there for like which is when I did Flutter there. I did Flutter Mobile Development. It's a social media platform. I did Flutter Mobile Development there, and this last month or the beginning of this month, I started with Caspian, Caspian Digital Solutions, where I also do Flutter. Before for the beginning of Flutter, that was before I started teaching. That's where I started learning Flutter, and then actually I didn't really think of Flutter as much as I just saw it somewhere, and I was like, I was going to check this later because you being able to program for multiple platforms is just too good to pass up. So I thought I was going to check later. I saw it and was like, I'm hooked because I was in JavaScript and CSS and React as well. Before that, just to be able to program for mobile apps, and being there, it's been very, very good for me. It's not been a mistake, I should say. And early on this at the end of last year, I got a job into Swirge doing Flutter, and last month I started Caspian. If you were to ask about Rust, about me getting into Rust, that was like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. I was thinking because there are two programming languages very common then. That was Go and Rust. I was going to choose between the two of them. So I went to the website, the Rust website, and I just saw it. I just saw the Rust website, and I didn't bother to go to the Go because I just thought the website was too metal, just too metal. Like it was just too good. I mean, it's like the design sense of it. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, if you get what I mean, do you get what I mean?
You mean for us, like the promises that they have?
No, 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 no. Like when they show these documentation pages, yeah, when I saw the language and I saw how metal it was, how do you understand what I mean by metal? Like,
You mean like? Well, I've always heard that the Rust docs are really, really good compared to Go doc.
yeah, yeah. I didn't even check. I didn't check Go. I didn't check Go at all. Once I saw the Rust, I was like, that's it. That's it. I'm going for Rust. And
Yeah, Rust is very clear, I think, in their documentation, and I think Go. I am actually on another podcast for Elixir, and we had a guy on there who was talking about Go, the Go documentation, and how bad the docs are. Like specifically, they do not. If I remember correctly, maybe I'm wrong, but if I'm wrong, just let me know in the audience. But I think he said that Go specifically does not want to give you examples of how to use their code. So if you look at the standard library documentation, they do not let you put in examples of how to actually use it. Like, in Flutter, right? You can look at stuff in the Flutter documentation, and then you can scroll down. You can actually see working examples or just example code and have an idea about how to use it, right? For Go, they do not want to do it like that. They just want to be very clear. This argument is this is this, and you have to figure it out yourself, which is kind of it's very weird. I don't know, but that's their style.
So anyway, I chose let's just start arguments with Go versus Rust. Something you want to go into, right? So I went to Rust, and that's that. And to talk about the package, I was watching Risocoder, I think that's the name. If you're familiar with the guy, I was watching a tutorial he did about I think it was TDD or something, test-driven development or something like that, or domain-driven design or something like that.
Yeah, I love his video for that one. That influenced my Flutter coding, like because of him. Like I think there's one thing I don't do from his, but everything else I do, and it's been a fantastic experience.
And that's what I saw the ether package, him using something that has to do with ether for error handling. I was like, this is just much better if it was in Rust, but in Flutter. But it's that kind of API. So I was like, and I heard about the new changes of the enums. I thought I would just go into it because I thought the enums were like they were making it more like Rust. So I was like going to make I thought I was going to easily make a package.
You could put data inside the enum, right? Like that. That what you mean?
That's what I thought. That's what I thought it was. That's what I thought it was. I thought I could just easily make something that because I've read a little bit of the Rust code, the standard library code of result, and I was like, I could just easily make it with that. But I was wrong about the changes. The changes, it's not a huge change from what's there before. If you have to check the the new enums for Flutter, it's not a big change. You cannot put new data. You cannot put dynamic kind of data like you do in Rust enums where you write OK5, another something as a like a struct inside or another as an int. It has to be the same type, and it doesn't. You cannot even set it when you instantiate it. So I had to change my mind. That's part of the. That's one of the reasons why it initially had the package, the OK package initially had enums as a public API. Eventually, I had to remove that because it's just not the same thing as using the switch statement is not the same as a match. So it just was very ugly. So I just had to remove it. Then I somehow made it look fine and make it look nice, and maybe copy a little bit of the dartz, the either package ideas on how to implement it with Flutter, and made a few changes that I made myself, and that's what made it.
Yeah, I do wish that this was something in the Dart standard library or whatever, right? I do like, man, I love it actually because I love what Rust has with that result type. It's really interesting stuff. Like I don't know why people don't copy it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful API. Like the people that thought about and made up was just excellent, and that's why I copied. That's one of the major differences with that package and the other result packages because there are a few result packages in the ether and result packages in the pub.dev. But that's one thing that I saw and I thought it's just simple. It's simple. It's intuitive. It's just nice. Just nice to use.
Yeah, and the other thing I wish that Dart would have is pattern matching, but we just don't have that.
That's actually what I thought was the new change. That's why I actually even went into it because I thought I would easily be able to make it and with enums and pattern matching. I thought it would just be excellent and easy to use and easy to develop, but it wasn't to be. And I had to. But the thing is, the API it's not about just a function or what the Dart has. It's about you giving an API that the user can use. For example, instead of the match statement, you have something like when, a dot when, things like that just easily matches. It's not a match statement in the same sense as a Rust, but it performs the same function. So things like that.
Actually, but I don't know if everybody at home has actually played around with Rust. I mean, you and I already know about it. Like, maybe we can talk a little bit about what is the result type and why is it so much better than maybe like the typical style.
The essence of the result type is errors, right? We have in Dart, we have exceptions. In most languages, we have exceptions and things like that. But in exceptions, you don't, using exceptions, you don't, as the downstream user, you don't know which exceptions this program can throw unless you go and read the code or somehow it's documented. It's not typed. For example, you just write a catch. The catch is an object of unknown type. Who knows what type the object is if you don't read the full code. But with the result, you have static typing. Like the result is right there. You know exact result of type T and error E. You just know exactly what is it you're getting. That's in error handling. In error handling, that's how the Rust lang sees it. There's a okay. They don't talk about Rust again. How you should see it is there are two types. I think Bones has an idea about it, but there are two types: unrecoverable and recoverable errors. Like for example, if the program actually looks to get a value in an array that's outside the bounds of the length of the array, yes, and it throws an error because that's not supposed to happen. That signifies that it's an error that's not supposed to be covered because that's not something that should happen because in languages like C or something, you'd probably be getting some other value as weird or things like that. And that's why you should throw an error. It should be unrecoverable in that sense. But sometimes when you are dealing with network, you're dealing with, in fact, when you're dealing with network, you're dealing with values gotten from the network. There could be an error anywhere. There could be anything like that, and such a value should be recoverable in every sense because, like, the user of a app or a Flutter app does not want to see that what is your value you got from the from the network is bad, from the backend is bad or something like that, or it was not possible or something like that. The user doesn't want to see that. And also the recoverable and errors and unrecoverable errors are not necessarily constant because sometimes you feel like an error should be unrecoverable or recoverable depending on how you design it. But some way downstream, someone that wants to use the API you created might actually want that error to be recoverable because in that sense, in that their program or their application, it should be recovered. For example, there's this idea of I'm going to mention Rust again. There's this idea of Linux kernel. There's the idea of the Linux kernel where like they set an operation to be unrecoverable, but in the sense of using the kernel, because every error in the kernel should be recoverable, because you don't want the kernel to crash. So in that sense, whether an operation should have recoverable or unrecoverable errors is very well dependent on the application, the downstream application of it. So in that sense, if you you designate an error as recoverable, then you should actually use result or something. But if you don't, maybe you should throw an exception. But then, thing is downstream, a user might designate that to be recoverable. If you get what I mean.
Well, of course, I get what you mean. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to explain the recoverable and non-recoverable, right? Like, so non-recoverables are called panics, right?
Yeah, and throwing exceptions, uncaught exceptions in the dartz sense.
Yeah, and then there's recoverable ones, which is kind of like returning a value that's not applicable, like kind of like -1 when you try to find the index of something in an array and it cannot be found, something kind of like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, so Rust is kind of cool like that, right? I think something else is interesting too is Go has something similar, except for they always return an error, whether or not it's null. But then people usually just don't even look at it. Have you done Go before or no?
I haven't done Go. I haven't done Go at all.
Yeah, Go is kind of interesting because it's like you can just it always returns two values like in a tuple. Have you done Python before or no?
Yeah, I've done Python before.
Okay, so you know how you can return a tuple or tuple of data. So you always get tuples, and the second one's always the error, and you can actually just put an underscore on it and just not worry about it. Just keep going like nothing happened. Yeah, you're not supposed to, but you can do that. But that's how they deal with errors. That they will give you the data plus an error, and you should check to see if the error is null or not. Where Rust is, you have a result type, and you actually have to open it up. So like there's something called like a maybe.
Yeah, exactly. That's another advantage of using the OK package over exception, the results idea over the exception kind of idea, because you have to explicitly say, I want to unwrap this. Like you cannot just say, give me the result, because it's like errors. Errors are like a thing that happen all the time, because the idea of using exceptions, it's like errors are not meant to happen, but it's an exception. It's something that happens like a percentage of the time, even though that's not true. Early in the development, errors happen. Late in development, errors happen. Even on production, in production apps, errors can happen. And how you making it seem as if it's an important thing, especially in the static typing and using static checks. It's just something that's just it's a life improvement or something to say. It's a life improvement, and for error handling, that's what I wanted to say about it being, because you can't just decide to ignore it. That's the thing. You don't have to try. You don't even have to use a try catch. If it throws an exception, you don't have to use a try catch. You don't have to use anything. You can just use the value. You can use the function and things like that. But for result types and ether types, you have to intentionally use a function to undo both sides. And with functionalities unwrap wells, there's so many methods in the OK package that allow you to easily handle it intuitively.
So, but this kind of idea is basically something called a union type, which I think is I've been looking for this to actually come to Dart at some point, like the union type, right? Where it's like, okay, like the idea of like a maybe, where it's either something or nothing. I would love to have something like that.
Yeah, but nullable type is just like that. It's just something like it's also a union type of.
Yeah, basically, it's a good point. Yeah. So I guess yeah, that's kind of another form of it, but I still like the way union types work rather than nullable. You like nullable more?
I think the nullable is just better than the option, just slightly better than the option, I should say. It's in fact it's more. I think it's just better. I just slightly better. It's less verbose, and everything you want to do with options, you can probably do it with nullable types. You don't agree?
So option, what does it boil down to? Is that just like something or nothing? Is that what I'm talking?
No, options, yeah, something and nothing, some and no, some and none. I meant to say some and none.
Yeah, options is fine. I think it's fine. I like that idea because I worked with Elm a long time ago, and they have a union type which is like maybe, and it was just or none, and I think that was perfect. So I like that more than nullable. But yeah, in the end, I mean, nullable will give you something similar, but nullable will never give you a result, right? Result is it's either you have what you want or you have the error with a description on it.
Exactly. With when I was talking about the nullable types, I'm talking about the precise and instance of a union type. For example, if you want something that is more general, you could probably use the ether package. One of the ether packages like dartz or fp dart. I think dartz or fp dart. It has ether.
Yeah, that's where I first ran into the either part, and then yeah, but I think I like yours a little bit more. I feel like it's much more versatile. Like I love the unwrap or. That's really nice. I mean, I guess you can kind of do the same, right?
Yeah, you can do the same. You can do the same with all those packages, but it's just about error handling. It's just about result, using the the result side, and others, the methods that deal with it. With either you can probably do that. You can do the same, but it's like there's a left, there's a right. That's one of the reasons why I made it, because I didn't really like that because I've been spoiled by Rust. I've been spoiled by Rust, I should say. So I was like, I told you I was watching the Russell code something about domain driven design or something, architecture, something like that. And so that either being used, either type being used. I'm like, this is just much better if it was the raw result type, and that's why I created that. And it's got a suite of methods to work in that sense. For example, there's the list, there's the extensions on lists and things. There's the when, yeah, there's the when which I recently added because it's not in the Rust package. The when it's not in the Rust, but it's something that's very common in that programs, and also It's a union kind of thing. When the value is an okay, when the value is an error, a function that results into the same type. So it gives you eventually like a when t or when u, and the okay function you give results into u, the error function you give results into u. So you can just handle the error that way. Or maybe you can or maybe I can share my screen or something.
Yeah, if you can show it, that would be more helpful. But when you, because not everybody's gonna be watching this, so if you can just explain it as you're showing it.
Okay. Yeah, so it's like it's just like when if you've used a report, you like see a single value dot when loading, when error, when something. That's just how it looks like in that sense. But that's all I wanted to talk about. It maps the result T to U. There's just a few methods like that, and you realize there's this function that does exactly the same thing. Map or else, which is actually what when calls. What when you say function lines, that's the name map or else, and you say function that's called when. I don't know. It's the same functionality, but it's like it's just more intuitive. If you get what I mean, it's just more intuitive. Like it's the thing about API design and API that I've come to see. I'm not very experienced, but I've come to see that it's not just about functionality. It's about the feeling of it. It's about the feeling, how it feels to a user. Like a function like map or else, which does the same thing as when, but it's just something that is just neater. Let me say.
Oh yeah, I
Anyway,
remember map or else. Yeah,
yeah.
that's a very interesting function.
So these are basically the methods of it. They unwrap kind of things of extracting the results immediately, and unwrap or else. There's the inspect that does not take the value if the value if it's not an error. It's called the function. If it's not, it won't, and things like that. Maybe you should take a look at the public dev. It's very well documented in the package. That's one of the advantages over a few other packages that do the result is the documentation. There's just so much documentation. There's examples on each method. That's very easy to understand.
Yeah. No, I love your package for that. I may bring it into my work now because I do love all the functions that you brought in. Because some of those things, like, even though Dart is a low level language, it's still very high level in terms of some of the functions it brings in. And the stuff that you brought over from there is really good stuff, right? Working with this kind of things. Because, yeah, you're always going to have either something works or it doesn't work. And it happens for a lot of things. And so it's nice to have something like that because that's the one thing that Rust does get right compared to other languages, that, in my opinion at least. And I think you're the same way thinking about that.
I agree with that completely.
What's next for this library? Okay.
I was thinking the list I was thinking about was create a default type, but it was very, very difficult. Create a default, a default, like making it a mixin that works on a type, but it seemed too contrived, too difficult, just too difficult to express. I was planning to use a mixin, but right now it's just very stable. It's it's copying a very stable API, and so it's not something that's going to change a lot. At least since from now, it's not something that's going to change at all. In fact, I don't see it changing much. It's very well dependent on the. I actually just I already said before I copied the Rust result API, and it's just going to stay stable as it is because of Rust is stable, so it's just going to stay stable as it is.
Yeah, because the version number is very low, right? It's 0.2, I think I saw, right?
No, it's 1.2, 2.1 now.
Okay.
That's been like a month ago. That was early on. That was only when it still had the enum, the switch statement, which is very dumb when I think about it. If you get what I mean, because it had a switch statement, it was just not very good. It wasn't not very good. It was me just trying to make match into darts by force when it's not just the same. When it's just not the same. So I eventually just removed it because it just was ugly. And when you saw it on Reddit, I think A few people were telling me about how the package, how it's just like copying something that's not supposed to work on. A few people like it, I should say. Well, a few people like something that's not Dart like, making it into Dart. And that's I took that and I thought, yeah, that's completely true. That's completely true. And now that I think about it, making it was just very, very dumb. But now, but it's much better and it's stable as it is.
Have you had any feedback from any users so far?
The only feedback I had was when I published it the first and the second time. When I published the 1.0, the pre 1.0, a few people told me about how it's not supposed to be. But then a few of them were not very, very useful, I should say, because some people are like result types that should not be used. Result type is not a dark thing. We already have exceptions, things like that, things like that, things like that. You get what I mean? But then some people already use that as one camp. Another camp was like we already have so much results. Those are people that use result or either types. We already have so much of that. Why should you have another one? Why don't you just go and improve something else? So I'm like, can't those people, the people that use it, tell those people that are telling me about using exceptions, like just tell those people like why, if you get what I mean, why results are not necessary or why they're not useful or something like that. So that's after the 1.0, but pre 1.0 it was nice about the that's where I got the idea about not using the switch statements, about how I think the replies have been pretty favorable. I think people that saw it and liked it. And I think you should get a look at it, and you might like it as well. And if you don't like it, there's also things you can say. You can tell me what you don't like, and maybe if it doesn't break anything, we can easily add it.
Well, I was to say, I think if you like either, then I think you should try this one or FP Dart because yeah, that's really really nice. And yeah, the when, like you said, is really similar to, like you said, RiverPod's method. I forget what was it. That one's also called when too, right? The function name.
Yeah, that's where I got it from. Actually, that's where I got the idea of using when. But that was late on. It was not really because there are already methods to work with it, but it's just for when you see something and you see something else where it's familiar. Just to add a more familiar method that makes it easy to use. It's about making it very intuitive. That's one of the things I care about with this package. Intuitive usage of the API. And that's what even drove me to use it so quickly in the first place.
Now, is there plans for another package that you think should be brought in that also should come from Rust or something else?
Yeah, I was thinking about Rayon. If you're familiar with Rayon,
Yeah, Rayon is a very popular concurrency package.
there are a few isolate packages on that on that, and I've been looking at it. So I've been looking at the code because I thought I understood the Rayon package after reading this guy's blog, Nico Masakis. If you know the guy, he has a blog about and he has a three parts blog about how the Rayon package works. And I read it. I thought I understood it. I went into the code. I just was lost. But I'm still studying. I'm studying the current usage, the packages, the isolated packages that exist on Dart. Just there are few on top of them, and how to make it work the same way Rayon works. And if I make benchmarks and it's actually improvement over like long computations, multiple long computations, whether it's an improvement, I'm just going to release it if that happens. But I'm working on that. And recently I've been working on VCF passing package. That's not a big deal per se, but it's quite a lot because it's about the standard, the IETF standard, which is very, very tenuous, very, very tenuous. Some things are just not like something says something somewhere, something says something elsewhere. Just make it follow that same standard was hard. I thought it was going to take me a week. I'm still on it.
Can you please port Serde? That'd be great.
Yes. That is a joke, right?
No, if you can port Serde, that would be awesome. You don't like Serde, or you're just saying it's such a great library?
Yeah, it's just something. great library, and how exactly? Maybe that's very possible. That's very possible. But you saying you make it sound like a simple thing. You can just port Serde.
No, I know it's not going to be simple because I know that one has got a lot of magic in it somewhere.
Yeah, it's got so much magic in it, man.
So for you guys at home who don't know work with Rust, but if you ever work with Rust and you need to work with like JSON or XML or whatever, um, how do I say? There's this package called Serde, Serde. It's basically the package which will take like it's called a struct in Rust, or you make about like an object of a class in in Dart, and you could say, okay, save it as JSON, or save it as XML, and save it as HTML, CSV. Like it's able to suck in any data format and kick out any data format as long as you include that library that includes the way to format stuff. So it's really like an awesome package. And like if you're going to be doing data whatever, you need to use Serde. Well, I mean, there's other ones, but Serde is basically the package for that. Um, yeah, it's a fantastic thing. And if you can also figure out how to do those macros where you can just add stuff, you can just debug, etc. That'd be nice too.
No. And there's meta programming common to Dart. That's been like said to be coming for like a year, or I think even for like a year since No Safety came out. There was a idea of meta programming coming to something like macros. Yeah, exactly. That's what meta programming is. And yeah, I was gonna say something about Serde. This week I was like, I hate dynamic types. Dynamic types should die in Dart. If you get what I mean, I basically don't like dynamic types at all. I was like, but without dynamic types, it would not be very possible to parse JSON in Dart. So I was like, early in the week, I was like, dynamic types should die. This week I'm like, all right, keep it. I don't like it, but keep it. So with Serde, I think if Serde were to come, or some like an intermediate representation of data that allows you to pass in different types, like a JSON, like a maybe a gRPC kind of thing, a protobuf or something like that. I don't know. Maybe in intermediate representation, the way Serde works, Serde works like it creates an intermediate representation of data that can easily be moved to any data type. I think that's like when I read Understanding Serde, there's a blog called Understanding Serde as how the Serde package doesn't tell you exactly how to implement it, but it tells you how it works. And if something like that were to be implemented in Dart, that's going to be very, very nice. But right now I'm very swamped. I have a few live projects right now, and work is really taking my time. So I don't think that's happening for me anytime soon. But there's a lot of people listening, so
That's okay. Yeah, I mean, if you could do Serde, that'd be great. But I don't hold my breath, not because you cannot, but it's a big thing to undertake,
yeah.
and it's just not worth it. I think that you won't need to do this kind of stuff for most Dart things. I think
Like you never know for the future of things.
if you have the time, I would love to see it. I want to see how it would work in Dart. I just don't know if it's possible. I guess it is, but I don't know how it even look like.
And even without meta programming, I don't think any of that would be so as smooth as it is with Rust.
Yeah, I heard you. No, I heard that they're supposed to expand the metaprogramming in Dart, but I don't know what's going on with that.
Expand is there's no meta programming or currently.
No, there is some metaprogramming that you can do.
It's not really meta programming because it's like it creates code, but then that's how basically meta programming works. Actually, it creates code. I don't know build runner or something like that. All those build runner things.
Well, you remember that you told me that you listened to the episode of Remy, right? I think Remy talked about in that episode that there's supposed to be an update to Dart where he could potentially remove Build Runner from the process of his freeze package.
Exactly. They're supposed to be. It's not available yet. It's not available since then. It was said to be coming last year when No City came, but it's still said to be coming. So, and I think lately there's been a lot of noise about it coming. So maybe it comes soon. But I don't think it's here yet.
Yeah, that's what I think so too, because I haven't heard anything about it. I don't remember seeing something in the notes. I mean, it's just like the enums were updated or something. It was like not really this last update. I don't think was so great, but there's improvements underneath the hood, which is important, I think,
Yeah.
and some nice stuff added in. Cool. I don't think I have any other questions for you. Did you have anything you wanted to let the audience know before we sign off?
Oh yeah. No, 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 no. I don't have it. I don't have anything else.
Well, how can we get in contact with you if we want to actually catch up with you?
I'm on Twitter. Xb1 on Twitter.
Yep, 0xba1.
On LinkedIn as Boluwatife Atanda. That's basically where you can catch me. And then and you can mail me. You can give me.
As I say, I just saw we have a question on YouTube. I didn't see it till now. Somebody was asking me, somebody's asking, what do you think of Dart's package, DARTZ? It solves the same problem with functional techniques.
Yeah, it uses the ether package, and it's not. I think it's great. I think it's great, but I didn't. No, I said I've been spoiled with Rust, the results Rust, and I think the API of resulting Rust is just much better. I think it's just much better. That's why I decided just to implement that. But I think that is very good. That is not just it's not just about the result. There's a few things. I think there's a lot of more things in that apart from the ether type. It's not just it's a functional programming kind of package that contains quite a few things. But okay, it's just result. It does that and it does that only. And it does that well, exactly. And it's very, very documented. Each method is very, very documented. And you get examples, multiple examples for each method. I think that is very good. That is very good for that and other things. If that's what you use or that's what you're used to. But me seeing that is what prompted me to make okay, so take of that what you will.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming on. It's great to have you on again because I love your package because we both love Rust. So I think that would be great.
Okay, maybe if I can make a shout out, my coworkers, my new coworkers, I've been working for them for a week or so.
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I just want to make a shout out to the guys at Caspian, um, Priscilla, Matthew, Kaya, Abdul. Well, all right. I mean, everyone at Caspian, exactly. Everyone at Caspian, my stay has been very, very good, and it's been good because of you guys. Yeah, Azan. Yeah, if I don't mention you, please forgive me. So that's a shout out to you. That's all.
Great. Well, again, thanks you for coming on. Maybe I'll have you again in the future when do your next package. When you port Serde over, that would be
Sturdy,
a
yeah.
good episode to have. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.